So good afternoon, everybody. So I'm a former alternative high school principal, so I'm probably going to be a little more animated than some of you are used to, but it's okay. So welcome to this session where we'll talk about teamwork and collaborative learning. When you think about teamwork and collaborative learning, what do you think one of the most important features are for a teamwork collaborative learning? If you had to say one thing that's critical, what do you think that is? Say it again? A facilitator. Okay, good. Anybody else? Not all at once. Cooperation. Good. What do you say, sir?
Ensuring that the groupings are heterogeneous, kids learning from each other,
Absolutely, absolutely. But even before that, what you want to think about is to ensure that you can create significant relationships. Because one of the most hideous things I've seen, whether it's working with children or adults, is pulling people together and say, solve it. Because what happens is there's a trust factor, right? I don't know this person. I don't know, should I say what I want to say? Should I keep it to myself? So there's a lot going on there, right? So as you're thinking about even creating heterogeneous groups, you also want to think about what are some of the activities you can do to ensure that you're building trust amongst the group. So here's my little glamour shots picture that I took for you all. So some of my previous experiences is, as I said, an alternative high school principal. I served as a dean at a university previously. I worked for a state superintendent's office before, and now I lead 2 companies providing training throughout the country. So what is team and collaborative learning, right? It is evidence-based. It is to ensure that you are leveraging the diverse knowledge of students, and it is the incubator to make sure that that knowledge continues along a continuum for success. What it is not is to ensure that folks are learning together and that there's the idea to facilitate learning so nobody feels that it's a competition where let me try to outsmart the other team or let me try to outsmart someone else that's on my current team. But it's how do we learn together to achieve the intended outcomes by which the facilitator has asked us to achieve? And how do we do that in a positive manner? Peer reviews. What's important as well about collaborative learning and team-based learning is that peers give critical feedback to each other, right? So the feedback shouldn't occur at the end with the facilitator, but it should be the opportunity for peers to give that feedback to each other in the group. Have you ever been in a work group at your current employment or before where you've been in a group and you had some feedback you wanted to share but decided not to? And why did you decide not to? I got a video about personality, so I'm glad you brought that up, right? So when you're thinking about feedback, right, there's what I call the human condition, right? Where sometimes you're determining, should I give this feedback? But no, I know how Margot is. She's always a Debbie Downer. If I say something, she's going to jump all over it. But sometimes you have to kind of think within yourself that if I give this critical feedback, irrespective of the other personalities, if it's for the greater good, push yourself out there to do it. Because the thing about personalities is, guess what? You can navigate through that stuff, right? And that's the same thing we have to encourage children in classrooms, is to feel that it's a safe space to contribute and to give back. And if folks who don't receive their feedback necessarily in a most positive manner, as a facilitator, you help to redirect that energy so that it is positive. Okay. Assessments. Also, it's really important that students are clear how they will be assessed in the group. Will it be an overall group grade? Will it be an individual grade? Will it be a hybrid between a group and an individual grade? So you really need to be clear with students how they will be assessed in a group. And also in groups, be sure to inform students that they are not to throw others under the bus if they have not performed. Can you give me an example in maybe not your current job, because I want to make sure you all stay safe, but in another job where you were in a group and someone did not pull their weight, and what did you do? How did it make you feel, and what did you do? Yes, sir.
We were working on an accreditation package sent to our accreditor, and the person that had to kind of really hone in on the assessments and matching the assessments to the outcomes
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. So if there is someone who isn't pulling their weight within the group, whether it's students or adults, you need to do a redistribution of the workload, right? So I remember I was in a group one time when I was working on my master's degree, and one of the team members felt that I was not pulling my weight. I worked a full-time job, I was in school part-time, and I was teaching at 2 universities at the same time. She was a part-time graduate student, and that's all she did. So she had a lot of energy, to say the least. So I was contributing, I was sending in stuff, I was responding to her emails, but she said she didn't feel that my responses to the emails were the depth by which she wanted to see. And she was a team member too, she wasn't the facilitator, right? So what I did was I said, you know, let me ignore this behavior from her, right? I felt like it was passive aggressive. Let me just ignore it, and let me just continue to contribute to the group, for the group. So she went to the professor, and she said to the professor, I feel Tony Johnson is not contributing to the group. You know, he sends like a paragraph in response, but I'm expecting like a 2-page response. It's not the depth that I want to see in this group. So she said to him, can you either take him out of the group, or I think he deserves an F. So I was like, oh, graduate students are very empowered these days, I say. So the professor calls me in, and he asked to meet with me 30 minutes before the class. He shares with me this feedback that he received. So I was not prepared because I didn't know what the meeting was about, but what I did share with him is I said, I have my laptop. Can I pull up some of the emails? Because we didn't have the real sophisticated smartphones at that time. I won't date myself, but you all know what I'm talking about, right? So I pulled up my laptop, and I said, can I share with you the documents that I've sent her in the email traffic that I feel that I was contributing to the group successfully? So I pulled it up. I showed it to him. He says, you know, this is unfortunate because she was geared to destroy your graduate career because of preference. He says, I'm going to deal with that. He says, I want you to continue to do well in the class, and I want you to push back on her because I want to see you be successful. Now get out of my office, I have papers to grade, and I got a journal that I'm trying to write, an article. I said, okay, yes, sir. So I went back to her, and I shared with her, I said, listen, I'm trying to get to my doctoral program. I'm really contributing. I met with the professor, and let me tell you what I don't appreciate. I don't appreciate you going to him and saying that I'm not contributing, because as a group, it's important for us to communicate together, right? And there's a difference between productivity and preference. Was I being productive? Yes. Did she prefer my work product? No. So that's another thing. I said that long story to say that we need to be clear when students are in groups that they need to focus on the outcomes of the assignment and not preferences, right? Because preferences oftentimes try to blend with outcomes, and it becomes a very negative situation. So we need to make sure students stay away from that. Okay. All right, so collaborative learning versus cooperative learning. Do all of you think that's the same thing? You all are reading the definitions. You all are smart. Like, he's not going to catch me up on that one. So collaborative learning is that we're going to work together in a group, right? And we're going to solve the problem as a team, right? Cooperative learning is that gentleman there will have a piece, the young lady there will have a piece, and I will have a piece. We'll work on our individual pieces to bring it together as a whole to complete the assignments. And we've seen both of those play out, right? Both with children and in your own work life. So it's important that we know that it's not the same, right? So collaborative and cooperative are very different types of learning outcomes. Now here's our video. I'm not sure if it's going to play. We're going to give it a shot.
I was on this date the other night, and we were at this restaurant.
All right, guys, you guys ready to get started?
Hang on a second.
We hear it.
and we were at this restaurant.
All right, guys, you guys ready to get started?
Hang on a second. And
Trip,
we
you
went
ready to
over-
get started, buddy?
Okay. Hey, you guys, we're all here. We should start.
All right, thanks for coming, guys. I just wanted to take a few minutes and talk about some ideas for the marketing strategy this year. So if you got one, just throw it out there. I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, how long is this meeting supposed to last? The schedule wasn't exactly clear.
Should be out of here in 30.
Is that approximate or
Hey guys, sorry I'm a couple minutes late. I got caught in traffic.
7 minutes, actually?
What's that?
A couple is 2.
So what we're doing is we're just coming up with some ideas for our new marketing strategy. So, anyone?
I think we should implement Pinterest.
Ooh, that's a fun idea.
What about a publicity event in the park?
Interesting. But how are you going to plan around the weather? What if it rains?
So we'll party in the rain.
Okay, just want to emphasize there's no bad ideas here. We're just brainstorming. So.
Yeah, I'm just really thinking it'll be a huge waste of money to try to plan around the weather.
Yeah, okay, we get your concerns. Nancy, thank you.
Okay, anyone else have an idea? Ephraim?
I've always wanted to see rain fall down all at once in a big splash instead of small drops over time. I mean, think how it could impact the irrigation system.
Okay. Terry?
Well, I have an idea from my previous job that I had last year. Let me take that back a little bit. I have this wonderful idea, but it doesn't really make sense unless I just take it back a second and bring it forward together. It was like 3 weeks ago that I remember he said something that I couldn't understand.
Hold on a
but
second, Terry. Hold on. Thanks for pointing. Here's what we need to do, okay? Lauren, you got this? We do a video submission contest on YouTube.
Oh, that's been done.
It'll be on Facebook, it'll be on Pinterest, it'll be on
If
Twitter.
we do something with technology, we lose the senior demographic.
So, you guys want to see an example?
Should we be moving on to the next topic? I mean, it's already 1:15.
Quarter after. That's funny.
Who knows how to put this on the screen? Up there, because you're not going to be able to, I want you to see all the details. We have a cable. Does this cable work?
I think that's power.
I don't know if on the there's an
This one.
HDMI
That
port,
cord's not gonna be long enough.
In the back,
Does that
there
remote
could be
go to
like
the
2 or 3,
TV?
like HDMI 1.
Plenty of time,
HDMI
guys.
2,
No rush.
HDMI
This isn't
3,
working.
I got a
and
green
they
marker.
coincide
Call the
with
IT
each
guy.
other with,
Wait,
there's
turn
also,
what off and back
what
on?
do you call it? S-video.
Hello?
Okay, I've got it working.
Hit play. Okay, now imagine hundreds of those floating around the web. Actually, do you want to watch it one more time?
No, please.
Trip, I think you're onto something with this idea. I really like it. Carol, did you get that down?
Yeah, got it.
Sorry, what is C-test up sub YT pros?
Well, I'm abbreviating to make room for all these great ideas. Contest, uploading it to YouTube, funniest, and you get a prize.
Wait, where are the other ideas?
And time.
Wait, where y'all going? We still have 100% of the things to accomplish.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know, it's always great in a presentation when you get a clap for the video. That means you picked the right one, so I'm glad I did. Raise your hand if you've been in that meeting before. So that meeting, when I saw it, I said, this epitomizes so many meetings I think we've been in, and I think it echoes to what the gentleman in the back said earlier about the different personalities that come into a meeting. So when we think about young people in terms of team grouping and collaboration, as a facilitator, it's going to be important to manage these personality types to ensure that you're able to get to the intended learning outcome. Because if you don't, as you saw in the video, there's a lot of background noise and static is what I'll call it, that will play out, and you won't be able to get it to achieve what you want it to achieve, okay? And if anybody wants that video to demonstrate in your organizations, my email is at the end of the PowerPoint. I'll be more than happy to share it, for sure, all right? Skills development. So when we're talking about team learning and collaborative learning, there are 3 outcomes that we want to make sure that's embedded each and every time we're working with young people. That we're developing their skills around problem solving, around critical thinking, and around analysis. These are the 3 components that should always be the part of the outcome when students are working in a team-based environment. And I don't know if you all are aware, but the history around team-based and collaborative learning came from medical colleges, preparing doctors, right? And what they recognize is that it's important when you're developing the next group of doctors to help them to work together in a group team environment. Because think about a surgery. If you're going to get open heart surgery, for instance, you're talking about a collaborative team, right? There's a lot of people that have to work together to ensure your safety, right? So it came out in the medical field of what we know to be collaborative and team-based learning. Okay. Instructor's role. So there's a lot of roles that an instructor has to play in terms of team-based and collaborative learning. And one of the things I call is the 50-50 rule, in which I believe that 50% of the success or not being successful in the group is the instructor's fault, and the other 50 is the students, right? So the 50% I consider to be the students is all those personalities that come to bear, their interest in the topic, and all that stuff that we can't always solve for. But the other 50% is what are you doing as an instructor to be able to manage these different personalities and to ensure they stay on track to achieve the intended outcome for the group, right? Also, you want to provide critical feedback, not at the end, but as they're working through this, right? Not to just have them to try to work willy-nilly on their own, and if they get there, they do. If they don't, they don't, and I'll let them know at the end when it's over. That's not the most successful team-based and collaborative work. It is being able to give them that critical feedback as they are working through problem solving. So I won't read all of these strategies to you in terms of what the instructor's role is because you see them there, but these are very important functions for the instructor. Okay? Benefits. There are at least seven salient benefits around team-based and collaborative learning, and they include enhances student engagement, promotes application and problem solving, develops interpersonal skills, knowledge retention, develops critical thinking, develops a sense of agency and control, and the ability to teach a larger number of students. Okay? Strategies to promote positive group dynamics. So I won't read these to you either, but I will share that it's important to keep the groups together long enough for them to begin to develop a relationship with each other. So if the students aren't together for an entire semester, don't change the groups every week, right? Let them stay together for 5 weeks or so, or 6 weeks, or even the entire semester, because they'll begin to learn each other and they'll begin to trust each other, and that is going to be some great synergy in order for them to achieve the intended outcomes for their group work. Okay? So that is the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you all so very much for the opportunity to talk about team and collaborative learning. Is there any closing questions before I think I have 2.5 minutes or less. Questions or comments? Yes, ma'am. In the classroom or as a larger system? Well, I think as a larger system, I think it's going to be important for us to share best practices with each other and be able to synergize with each other. And conferences are a great way. I can't tell you the amazing people I've met at conferences throughout my career that I bounced ideas off of. I've served on different kind of work groups they had. So I think just being able to synergize with each other around our work and be able to talk authentically as well about the challenges you may be having at your organization and how somebody can maybe give you some critical feedback to help support you in that process. So I think it's just a lot of conversations and being able to be vulnerable with others that you may not know in order to get to a place where we can synergize together. Because there's so much money in education, so I don't think money is always our deficit in education. I think is what you're saying, like how do we synergize better? How do we collaborate better to support students? Because to me, me, there's no difference between students in Florida or leaders in Florida and teacher leaders in Florida and teachers not working with teachers in Texas around a reading initiative, right? And I think we need to kind of see more interstate collaboration and more school district collaboration and more nonprofits and other proprietary companies are working together to achieve student outcomes. That's my suggestion on that. Yep. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes. Can we put the last slide back up, please? Yes. So my email is tony.johnson@dccaptivate.com. Yes, I live in the District of Columbia. Or you can reach me via phone at 202-948-9055. I am also on all the social media platforms, so if you want to get connected to me on LinkedIn, feel free. If you want to see my professional and social side, I am on Instagram and Facebook as well, and I love to expand my network, so feel free to reach out, and I will gladly accept. All right, so before I get ousted from the stage, I'm going to kindly depart. Thank you all so very much for your time.